Hey, okay, so I just dropped my son off at orchestra practice here a few minutes ago, and it is crazy windy here today. It's crazy windy. And because we got this cold front that's moving through right now, and it's a really strong cold front. We have a chance for severe storms tonight as well. And then, so it's like in the lower 70s here right now, but the temperatures are supposed to get like drop down into the 20s overnight and possible snow this evening as well. So it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, it's a really powerful cold front, and on the way here it was really windy, and my son was like, did you know that the atmospheric turbulence, we don't really know a whole lot about the turbulence of the air? And I was like, oh really, tell me more, because my degree is in atmospheric chemistry and meteorology, and it's like it's my jam. So I wanted to hear, like, what do you mean, what do you mean? And he said, he was like, well, there's a whole lot of things that we don't know about the turbulence in the atmosphere. We just don't know. There's so many different, this isn't the words that he used, but I'm paraphrasing in my words. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he said there's just a whole lot of different variables, a lot of things that we don't know, so we can't fully predict the turbulence of the atmosphere. And I was like, yeah, that's 100% right. We don't know. And I said, like I said, we've do understand how to calculate like the fluid, because the atmosphere is a fluid. It's just like, you think about water. Water is a fluid. We know that because water, it's like if you wave your hand in the water, it creates ripples. It creates ripples in the water. And the same thing is if you wave your hand in the air, it creates ripples in the air. We can't see it because it's air, but it creates disturbances. It creates movement in the air. It creates ripples in the air that we don't necessarily see, but it does happen. So we do know the atmosphere is a fluid, and we can calculate the fluid dynamics of the atmosphere based on the bigger scaled items. So like the topography in certain areas, like for instance, in the mountains, the topography is different in the mountains than it is in the valleys or in the open plains or across the oceans, and just different, there's different variables that you can calculate, but you still have the rotation of the earth creates, like with the earth spinning, you're going to have that's going to affect the fluidity of the atmosphere as well, which is a Coriolis force. So all of these variables that we know are constant, those kinds of things we can predict. And so we can use those for the predictions for the fluid dynamics of the atmosphere. But when it comes to the small scale and the different like little bitty things that all the little, like we can't predict all of the movements of the cars that are driving down the road, and we can't predict how different trees are going to move because the wind creates the movement of the trees, but then the movement of the trees can affect the disturbances of the atmosphere. And you've probably heard of the butterfly effect, where the idea is that the butterfly flapping its wings in Tokyo, Japan can create a tornado here in the United States. Like basically the littlest disturbance that we don't necessarily know can create weather in all parts of the world. And so that is why meteorology is an imperfect science, is because we can't predict it perfectly. We can't calculate everything perfectly because we can't know. There's no way of knowing definitely what every single movement is in the world. There's just no way to know. But we do know that the littlest disturbances, like the butterfly flapping its wings, can create different disturbances in the atmosphere that can affect the weather in other locations. So the same thing goes with our intentions behind our actions. So how earlier, or last week, I talked about how we want to empty. We want to make sure that we empty ourselves of anything that is not in alignment with the truth of who we are, or our souls, or who God or our higher selves or source, our creator, is calling us to be. We want to empty and release that so that we can fill ourselves back up, make space and fill ourselves back up with the God light, the light of the Holy Spirit or Christ, because that is the energy that we're going to be embodying. That's the energy that we are going to be walking around with, is the energy of whatever is in our vessel, in our system. If we don't empty ourselves of the things that are not in alignment with the truth of who we are, or our soul, or that highest self that we came here to embody, then the intention behind our actions are going to be in alignment with that lower version, the egoic version. And so we want to embody that higher light, because the intention behind our actions is the energy behind our actions. And that is the ripple that we're going to put out into the ether, out into the collective. Because, people might do the right thing, but a lot of times they might do the right thing so that they look like they're a good person, or they might say the right thing. I mean, we see it all the time with politicians. They do and say the right thing, but what is the intention behind their actions? Is that really because they're good people that are doing the right thing and saying the right thing because that's actually the energy that they're embodying? Or are they doing that because they are trying to manipulate us and brainwash us and to get our votes? You know, so same thing goes like in relationships, or I mean, job, I mean, anything. Like, what is the intention behind somebody's action? Is it actually because that's who they are? Are they full of themselves and full of their ego and needing that external validation, or they're trying to control and manipulate a certain situation? So they're doing and saying all the right things, but what is the intention behind their actions? The intention behind the actions is everything. The intention is everything. If you're doing things for the wrong reasons, that can be felt. That can be felt. Can be felt, you know, it's like you see it a lot of times. I hear it a lot of times when I work with people that they're in relationships and their partner is doing and saying all the right things, but they can feel that it's not, you know, it's not authentic, but they don't really know, because then they'll go to talk to their partner and their partner's like, well, I'm doing and saying this, you know, I'm doing this and I'm doing this for you and this, but it's like, but they're only doing it, they're not doing it for the right reasons. Like on paper, you know, they're doing and saying all the right things, but it's not felt. And that energy is everything. And that energy is what creates ripples. So in the world, when you're showing up in the world, however you are showing up in the world, just remember that the intention behind your actions is what creates ripples in the collective. That is what creates ripples. And just like we don't fully know how much our movement, like our physical movement, can affect the turbulence and the disturbance, like how much it can disturb the atmosphere, we also don't know how much our energy that we have behind our words and our actions can affect the energy that's rippling out in the collective into the world. So that's why it's so important to like release things that are not in alignment with the truth of who we are, not in alignment with, you know, that God light, that higher self, that source light, that higher energy, so that we can make the space to bring that in, to embody that. Because what we are embodying, what we consume, what we are putting into our body, no matter what that is, no matter what we consume, that is who we become. That is who we are. That is the energy that we embody. And that is going to be the energy that is behind our words and our actions. So we want to make sure that the energy behind our words and our actions is of the purest intention, because that is the energy that we're going to be putting out into the world. So anyway, I just want to talk about that a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. This weather just kind of made me feel into it a little bit more. And I just kind of wanted to relate the weather, like the weather stuff, with the energy of the ethers and the ripples. So anyway, that's really it. I hope y'all are having a good day. All right, peace out.